And this isn't James Charles' first rodeo. This isn't his first go around with this. Okay, once, you know what, a normal person kind of like learns from their mistakes, I guess. This is a sick individual. James Charles is a sick in the head individual.
James Charles has recently been exposed for doing illegal things, and as a result, he's getting dropped by huge sponsors like Morphe, as well as getting his YouTube channel demonetized. And today I wanted to talk about some of the influencers that tried to warn us about James Charles, but sadly we did not listen. And at number 10, Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star is one of the people we know orchestrated the bi-sister scandal to call out James on his power-hungry behavior. He was also the first person that supported Tati's claims before other big influencers stepped in as well. Hours after Tati released bi-sister, Jeffree tweeted that James was banned from his home and is, quote, a danger to society, adding that his boyfriend Nate felt uncomfortable around James. After some backlash, Jeffree walked back his claims temporarily, but provided evidence of a voice memo from a James Charles a year later on the Mom's Basement podcast. YouTuber Blair White also came forward on her channel saying that she heard the voice memo and believes the accuser, who's actually a big YouTuber. And I mean, it really doesn't seem like Jeffree was lying about his claims after all. However, I definitely don't think he should have shared that voice memo with anybody. And at number 9, Trisha Paytas. Trisha Paytas is probably the influencer that has been the loudest in her disdain for James Charles. Before many of the allegations against him even came out, one of the biggest feuds between Trisha and James happened while Trisha was feuding with Charli D'Amelio, following her entitled comment about not getting 100 million followers yet. In defense of Charli, James tweeted out that people should be less harsh on Charli, then taking a dig at Trisha by saying, quote, 30-plus-year-olds dragging someone half their age feels familiar. Trisha clapped back savagely, writing, quote, poor parenting on your parents and James for allowing you to be friends with Tati, a middle-aged woman while you were a teen. Unfortunately, you were the victim then, but now Charli is. You being friends with her is Trisha then followed up with another tweet slamming James, saying, quote, definitely have always said no one deserves to be cancelled. Everyone has room for growth/positive influence, except James Charles. Please cancel him. He's a forever victim with a superiority complex. He's never said sorry his whole life and hangs out with an underage girl regularly. And even though Trisha got a lot of heat for those comments at the time, she turned out to be right. And at number 8, Ethan and Hila Klein. Ethan and Hila got into a heated feud with James Charles after they accused him of stealing their color block merch from their clothing line Teddy Fresh. In response to James's announcement, Ethan tweeted out, quote, I know we didn't invent color blocking, but I'm having a hard time with the new James Charles merch. It's the same exact design as Hila's. Combined with the fact that his audience is so huge, many people will assume he designed it and start accusing us of plagiarism. What do you think? James responded back saying the two had DM'd, and James claimed that he didn't know of their designs. Ethan continued to speak out about the similarities on Twitter, share text messages sent by James, and compare the situation to Charles accusing makeup brand Wet n Wild of copying his eyeshadow palette. James didn't respond any further and ended up going forward with the launch anyways. And at number 7, Tati Westbrook. Y'all already know that Tati had to be on this list because she was the first person who had the courage to go up against James and his massive audience. She uploaded the infamous bi-sister cancellation video in May of 2019. And in the 40-minute video, she explained why James is shady, two-faced, and has no loyalty to his friends. This was because James promoted her competitor, Sugar Bear Hair. She also made serious claims about Charles, alleging that he leveraged his fame to manipulate boys into being with him romantically. James denied these claims and Tati ended up deleting her video. As a result of the allegations, James lost a record 3 million YouTube subscribers at the time. However, he later uploaded a video with more proof than Tati provided, and he was able to win everybody back, until he was recently exposed again. Tati hasn't spoken out on the situation since, but I honestly have a feeling that she will very soon. And at number 6, Zara Larsson. Zara Larsson is another celebrity that jumped on the bandwagon against James Charles after the bi-sister video was uploaded. Apparently, James had actually DM'd her boyfriend before. She tweeted out saying, quote, I'm cackling because he hit up my boyfriend in the DMs several times, knowing damn well he's straight. However, after the tweet went incredibly viral, Larsson confirmed that it was actually only one DM along with multiple comments on Instagram. James actually responded to her call out in his response video called No More Lies, where she appeared to be in the wrong. Later on, she decided to address the situation in a long thread where she apologized, but she also somewhat stood by her decision to call him out, writing in part, quote, what seems to be the thing here is that my boyfriend wasn't the only one, and that's why I don't condone this behavior. You have, for example, previously tweeted saying that straight men will be the death of you, etc., which is concerning considering the fact that they will never give consent since they don't play for Team D. Halfway at number 5, Jeff Wittek. Even though Jeff is straight, that didn't stop James Charles from flirting with him. James made multiple videos with Jeff and the Vlog Squad, and in the videos it's clear that James is flirting with Jeff. He even named named one video they did together, quote, "The truth, my crush does my makeup." And although in the video it's clear that they're just, joking around a lot of the time, it's hard to tell if Jeff actually ever felt uncomfortable because of James. After James's cancellation, Jeff actually defended James on a podcast, telling the world that he never felt uncomfortable around James. But a lot of people didn't buy it and think that could be the reason that James and the Vlog Squad were never really close after the flirty videos came out. In at number 4, Marlena Stell. Marlena Stell is an OG member of the beauty community on YouTube and helped make it what it is today. However, James showed that he has no respect for others in his community when he came for her. The feud between them started when Marlena tweeted out that she was going to be working on a documentary with Netflix about the beauty community. James responded to the announcement in a tweet saying, quote, "Wait, what?" saying how he was planning to make a documentary on the beauty community and he was livid. Adding, quote, "Everything that I put my heart and love and a ton of work into is always stolen by someone." Marlena responded that she was approached by Netflix and said it would be great to hear from an influencer for her documentary. James, however, didn't accept her response and the feud continued for hours. In at number 3, Gage Gomez. Gage Gomez was the first influencer to call James out for his behavior towards men. After James took Gage to Coachella, Gage uploaded a video to YouTube talking about his experience, in which he claims he was manipulated by James from January up until Coachella. Throughout the video, Gomez claims that James pressured him to hang out and tried to manipulate him, saying, quote, "James saw this as an opportunity to manipulate me as a person who may or may not have been trying to figure things out about their preferences, after the fact that I told him I was straight multiple times." James responded that Gage never told him that he was straight and that Gage was just clout chasing. And at number 2, Stephen Harrison. Stephen Harrison shared some DMs he got from James Charles while James was in the midst of his bi-sister scandal. Stephen, who posts screenshots of people who hit on him all the time, shared the details on Instagram. Basically, James DM'd him pretty bluntly, saying, quote, "You're so hot." Stephen responded back saying, "My wife's so hot." James then responded back that he could have just accepted the compliment. Then Stephen replied that he finds it more of a compliment when people say nice things about his marriage. When sharing the screenshots online, Stephen said, quote, "Don't ever feel you should accept a compliment, even if it's by a dude with 16 million followers." And finally, at number 1, Tana Mojo. Tana Mojo used to be really good friends with James, but then all of a sudden it stopped, and no one was really sure why. However, after Gage's Coachella feud with James, Tana and Gage actually became really close, with Tana seemingly taking Gage's side in things. Tana tweeted out years later claiming that she was actually manipulated by James. This started when Tana responded to a tweet referencing that she had took James' side publicly at first, but Tana set the record straight, tweeting out, quote, "100% manipulated and begged to tweet that. I was defending someone that was my friend at the time and I believed them. Sad to see. Later reconciled with Gage and discussed it, apologized, heard his side of the story, and now I call him one of my closest friends." Things change.
James Charles is in trouble again after more accusations that he inappropriately messaged fan. James Charles' rise to fame has definitely included a ton of scandals along the way, most of which has put him at the center of some very heinous accusations. So if you recall, back in May of 2019, YouTuber Tati Westbrook put together a 40-minute video where she exposed James Charles for attempting to trick straight men into being interested in him. Since that time though, James has also been caught on numerous occasions leaving a few suggestive comments on accounts of people that he seems to be attracted to, most of which are celebrities, but sometimes, like today's allegations for example, normal people come into the mix. A 16-year-old boy on TikTok today has put out several videos that have since been deleted from the accuser's profile, where he quickly shows screenshots of different Snapchats that James Charles had apparently sent to him. Def Noodles, however, was able to get a hold of the clips, and in a tweet he writes, "Who could have seen that coming? James Charles exposed for allegedly messaging 15-year-old. When James notices that boy shared one of their messages on his story, James snaps, accuses the boy of lying about his age, then blocks him. Boy alleges he never lied about his age." Later adding, "The boy James Charles has been allegedly messaging is actually 16 years old, according to a message they shared on their Snapchat. The boy also shared several receipts in another video next tweeted thread." Now all of this social media backlash comes after James Charles had put out probably one of the biggest responses I've ever seen, denying the allegations of grooming that were levied against him. In the post he writes, "There's a video going around about me on TikTok and Twitter of a guy calling me a groom, and I want to address it right away. The accusation that I am person is completely false. Last week I came across someone on my Instagram Explore page, saw he followed me, and added him on Snapchat. The next morning I woke up to several snaps from this person being excited I added him back, saying he loved me, and also lewd photos of himself in the shower. I asked how old he was right away, and he told me he was 18, so I started flirting back. In the excitement of meeting someone I thought could be potentially great, I didn't ask for a copy of his ID or passport. It's now clear based on the video he uploaded, he was taking photos of me with another device, and had an ulterior motive from the beginning. Later in the day he said a few things that made me question the validity of his original age answer, and when I asked him to confirm his age once again, he admitted he was 16. I told him I was really uncomfortable and apologized for flirting, but he insisted on continuing talking, saying it could be our little secret. He's a fan of mine and would never tell anyone. I told him I wasn't okay with this, he started getting upset, and at this point I unfriended him. We haven't spoken since. I'm not victim blaming him or victimizing myself either, simply sharing what happened, and what happened was not okay. After false allegations like this in the past, I would never knowingly engage with anyone age and put my life on the line for a few Snapchats. Because of situations like this, instead of taking someone's word for it, I now will ask to see the ID or password of every guy I have a conversation with. Right away, as I was reading the part where he starts exposing the kid for trying to cover it up, that to me is victim blaming. He can follow it up with saying that it's not, but that doesn't make it so. To me, James is the adult in this situation. I mean, he literally is the adult in this situation. And as an adult that operates from a position of power, you really need to be careful when speaking to your fans. And James Charles is still a human being that deserves to find love and affection, but he definitely should not be looking for that through his Instagram DMs, or Snapchats for that matter. Also, I find it odd that he sort of promised the public that he will start checking the IDs of people he's romantically interested in. Hey, he didn't even say romantically, he just said guys he was talking to. To me, that's a huge red flag. Like, you are so attracted to younger looking people and gotten yourself in so much trouble for hitting on that you have to openly say, okay guys, okay now I'm gonna start checking IDs. Nope, not a single one of you getting past me now. Let me see that ID. Like, it's very weird, right? Like, even Variety magazine also reported this week that James Charles will not be brought back to host the Instant Influencer series, and even though YouTube avoided citing this incident as the reason, many fans are assuming that this is why. These new screenshots of receipts though certainly show an ugly side of James Charles, and we will have to wait and see if he continues to deny the allegations.
As many of you heard in our last update about the James Charles lawsuit, he recently broke his social media silence to call out his ex-employee for blackmailing him. Well, it seems as though things have only escalated further, with his former creative director choosing to just expose him further. Beauty influencer James Charles had built himself quite the lucrative career over the years, but as the days go by, new accusations are slowly chipping away. As of late, the 21-year-old multi-millionaire has been at the center of a controversy regarding him texting people that were underage. The online backlash led to him losing monetization on his YouTube channel and cutting ties with Morph Cosmetics. Now his former producer and creative director Kelly Rockline is speaking out yet again regarding her lawsuit against him. Kelly is alleging wrongful termination, disability discrimination, failure to provide reasonable accommodation, and failure to pay minimum wage for overtime hours worked. During an interview with Insider, Kelly and another anonymous source also alleged that James had used the N-word in front of them. Initially, Rockline said that she wanted to settle with James privately, but apparently his legal representation declined to settle during their early conversations back in 2019, saying that they would rather litigate the dispute in private arbitration. Then in March of 2020, Kelly decided to file her complaint with the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Now, of course, James has declined to comment on Kelly's recent claim that he used a racial slur in front of her, and through his attorney, he has essentially denied all of the claims that she has made against him. On the flip side of things, James Charles posted a video to his Twitter further explaining the lawsuit in question. James took that time to also accuse Kelly of taking her story to the media to publicly pressure him into offering a higher settlement offer. He then went on to question why she has chosen now to discuss their legal dispute that has been going on for 2 years. In response to this recent video, Kelly's attorney told media outlets that the reason for her waiting so long to speak about this is because of the legal team for James Charles. According to Kelly's attorney, James's legal team have been attempting to compel arbitration, which is a private process where disputing parties agree that one or several individuals can make a decision about the dispute after receiving evidence and hearing arguments. Basically, it's a process where both sides kind of come together and agree to follow and respect the decision of a neutral mediator. This is one route that you can try instead of filing a lawsuit and going to court to resolve a dispute. Kelly, on the other hand, wanted to set a precedent for how influencers treat their employees. By going through the process of litigation to be compensated, she will then set a template for future cases or disputes of this nature. Rockline told Insider that she is hoping to be compensated for unpaid wages that she says were withheld from her, along with damages, penalties, attorney fees, and interest from the 3 years since she was fired. Despite working 80 hours a week or more, Kelly says that she was not paid any overtime at minimum wage even. However, it is also worth noting that she did say in a perfect world that she would still work for James Charles, whatever that means. That being said, she also exposed him for using the N-word in front of her on numerous occasions, claiming that he would use it casually while filming, and that he would also refer to his friends using the slur as well. Backing this claim up is another source who claims to have had a personal relationship with James prior to 2016. They too said that Charles would casually use the slur in front of them in high school. Kelly's attorney has also responded to claims made by James that she is blackmailing him. In response to that, he said that James Charles Charles' legal team attempted to stop the story from Insider.com by offering a settlement in response to Rockline's claims to buy her silence. James Charles' manager responded to that and told Insider, James made a reasonable settlement offer for an employment lawsuit. She countered with an outrageous amount of money to settle and to retract her public statements. James wasn't willing to pay her off. As for James, well, he is still defending the fact that he has never paid anyone off, nor will he ever. During his recent video, he confirms this as much, saying, contrary to popular belief, I have never paid anybody to speak or not speak about me, and this will not be the first time that I do it. Adding, my only option is to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law and hope that when it gets to a courtroom, justice will be served. I wonder if bringing this to a courtroom, though, is just going to open up a can of worms that James Charles doesn't want to expose.
Well, I just don't really feel comfortable with that. But like, I love you and I really want to be together. And I'm like, well, we can't be together because you can't afford a plane ticket. You're probably still in either high school or college, like a senior in high school or in college, either high school or college, either high school or college.
So James Charles has finally made an apology video addressing 2 of the now 6 allegations that have come forward against him, that he was exchanging lewd content with teenagers who are under the legal age of consent. The almost 15-minute video is called Holding Myself Accountable, and James speaks in a somber tone the whole time. He starts off the video addressing the fact that this is not the first time that he's been forced to address these allegations, because obviously this is basically why he was cancelled during the Bi Sister scandal in 2019. But he says that he doesn't want the video to be like his No More Lies video, where he showed receipts and proved the other parties wrong, but rather he wants this video to fully hold himself accountable for his actions. In the video, he says he will be addressing 2 allegations against him made by 2 people who were under the age of 16 at the time they engaged with James. James says that with both of them, he added them on Snapchat, asked for their ages, and believed them when they said that they were 18. But when he later found out that they were only 16, he blocked both of them and stopped speaking with them. James then discusses how he's embarrassed and ashamed that he didn't do the minuscule amount of research that it would have required to find out their real ages. And he says he's completely at fault for not doing this work because he is the adult in this situation. James also said that he's taking the time to step back and do some self-reflection on why he was being so reckless with his dating life when in every other aspect of his life and career he is so controlled. With him admitting, quote, it sucks and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I am desperate. And by this, he means desperate for a partner. James then addresses the allegations that he is purposely seeking out teenagers, clarifying that he's not doing this and his intention is to date someone his age or older. However, the idea of being in a relationship became so important to him that he decided to overlook red flags and not take precautionary measures with the people that he was talking to. He then says that he doesn't want to just talk about how his actions are going to change, but he wants to really dissect why he got so reckless in the first place. Adding that when he was being cancelled during No More Lies, he thought the only issue was that he was accused of tricking straight men. But now he knows the issue is much bigger, and the issue is the power imbalance that he has with any person that he talks to because of his online platform. He then goes on to say that he's realized that a lot of the issues he currently has with dating are because he had such a lack of experience with dating growing up, but then after he became so famous, when he got famous, he was flooded with people that were interested in him from basically all over the world. He also admits to using his Instagram Explore page as a dating app in the past, saying he thought he would be able to talk to any guy because he is such a huge influencer. James then talked more about power imbalances and the fact that he did not think he was using his power over these specific people because they had reached out to him first. But he now realizes the excitement of talking to a celebrity can make people do things that they otherwise would not, like lying about their ages. He finished off the video saying he does not want this video to be the end of the conversation. He truly wants to not only change his behavior, but also make this conversation more mainstream. Finishing, quote, I promise that something like this will never happen again. So obviously watching a video like this, there's gonna be a ton of reactions. I'm sure a lot of you have already had a lot of reactions to this. But for me, I think for what he's being accused of, an apology video is really just not gonna cut it. I know he says in the video that he made these terrible decisions because he's desperate and he just wants a boyfriend really badly. And although I'm sure there is some truth to that on some level, that does not excuse his actions. Like, it's COVID. The majority of single people right now are probably feeling pretty desperate too. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna make illegal choices like this, especially coming from someone like James who has such a massive platform. Also, James has been a celebrity for years now, so the amount of attention that he's been getting from men interested in him definitely isn't new, and you'd think that after being canceled for practically the exact same thing in 2019, he would never allow himself to get into a situation like this again. That's really the part that I can't wrap my brain around. It's like he had the worst cancellation in all of YouTube in 2019 for extremely similar, accusations, and now he's doing
the same thing. It's crazy to me. It seems like the conversation is now turning to the fact that many people on the platform have been seriously canceled for honestly doing a lot less than James. Like usually someone is getting canceled for doing something insensitive, but in the grand scheme, this is a real serious crime, and it's happened multiple times that we know about, clearly showing a pattern. Of course, this apology is not for me to accept, but rather the victims, but I'm just not sure how an apology video can fix something like this that is clearly a pattern of behavior. But I just really hope that he does keep his word and actually does change his behavior. Because we all know he definitely didn't after his last apology video.
Oh, really? Well, not this year, dude, but thank you. I'm not leaving my house for the rest of the year.
Since James Charles has been absolutely crushing the collab game recently, I thought I'd take a deep dive into some of the celebs that refused to collab with him, with some straight up denying his offers, and others that he had such bad beef with that we can assume that collab will never happen. I did also want to mention that some of these interactions are over a year old, so opinions could have changed, but probably not. Today on the channel, I'm going to be filling you in on some tea with James Charles and the huge celebrities that have denied collabs with him. So if you've been on any live stream that James has been a part of, then you've probably seen him being super thirsty for collabs firsthand. But since James always has such iconic collabs on his channel, it's inevitable that he's going to have to be pushing for them constantly. And of course, some people will refuse. The first person that straight up denied a collab with James was Brendan Urie. So James was following a Twitch live stream that Brendan was doing in 2019. And James asked if he could do Brendan's makeup sometime while Brendan was live on the stream. But he essentially shut down the idea of a collab with James, at least for now, saying, quote, "Not this year, dude, but thank you." And then adding, "I'm not leaving my house for the rest of the year."
Sorry, they told me you do makeup. Oh, really? Well, not this year, dude, but thank you. I'm not leaving my house for the rest of the year.
And that last comment is what caused the internet to troll James like crazy after that. Because that just seemed like an excuse that someone would use if they were caught off guard. James responded to this in a Twitch stream that he did.
Like, let me glam you, like you talked about. And he's like, hey, no thanks, I'm not leaving my house. I was like, okay.
And it's a little sad, but also kind of funny, I can't lie. The next person that a lot of people speculated refused to collab with James was Millie Bobby Brown. So like I said earlier, James loves to comment on people's live streams, and that's exactly what he did to Millie. So she was on live stream and he commented on the band-aid that she had on her forehead, and she responded to the comment and shouted James out. And after that, James thought it was an optimal time to ask for a collab. So he commented on the stream again saying, "Millie, let's film a makeup look and talk about season 3. And a few seconds later, when fans speculate Millie could see the comment, she makes a pretty shady face, to say the least.
So sweet, and I love your eye.
And then after reading the comment, she pauses for a second before she quickly changes the subject. And people obviously put 2 and 2 together and concluded that Millie was shook by James's question of trying to collab and was trying to dodge it because she did not want to collab with him. But I'll let you make the conclusions for yourself on that one. The next person is Cardi B. So Cardi tweeted out that she met James Charles and he was really beautiful in person. So again, James saw a collab opportunity and he pounced. He quickly quote tweeted her tweet saying, "My literal queen, we need to film together and glam." But after that interaction, James got a ton of backlash for being thirsty, and tons of Cardi's fans were begging her not to do a collab with James. She even got some hate on her original tweet for complimenting James at all. So after all this, Cardi probably didn't want the potential PR nightmare of filming with James, and she never commented back. But this hasn't stopped James, as he is also asked to collab with her on her Instagram lives. But I'm guessing she didn't even take the time to respond back. James also got some hate for commenting on this particular live stream, where she was actually talking about deep issues like racism. So obviously, not the right time or place for a collab. So next up, we have Ariana Grande. So if you didn't know, James and Ariana have some pretty serious beef, and I don't think it's gonna be resolved anytime soon. So way back in 2018, James and Ari were actually pretty friendly, with their relationship starting at one of her concerts. Basically, James went to her show in LA, and after he posted a ton of things from that night, she ended up DMing him, thanking him for coming, and saying that she wishes she knew that he was coming, as she would have had James backstage. She actually even ended up following him. But their friendship did not last long, as shortly after this, James got into his whole Ebola scandal where people were calling him racist. So as a result, Ariana's fans got really mad that she was following James. So she ended up unfollowing him, and he got roasted because of it. Then he decided to DM her about it, where she admitted that she unfollowed him because she didn't want her fans to be disappointed in her. But he clapped back that he was disappointed that she would stoop to his bully's levels. And James revealed all of this in one of his videos.
Like, listen to them and unfollowed, which is just like saying like that's okay to do.
Yeah, she could have done nothing, ignored it, and just kept DMing you.
Yeah, like it wouldn't have been that deep. That was a disappointing interaction.
Where in it, he called Ariana the rudest celebrity that he had ever met. So of course, after all this, you can imagine that they would never be collabing. But after James's video blew up, he claimed that he did apologize to her privately. So hey, maybe this one could happen in the future, but I kind of doubt it. And lastly, we have Shawn Mendes. So this one is a bit of a stretch, but I thought I would include it anyways. So back in 2018, Shawn was on an Instagram live juggling, and then James made an ultra thirsty comment where he said, "Can you juggle me like that?" Which is just so typical James, honestly. And then fans speculated that Shawn was upset by the comment, as right after Shawn goes to look at the comments, and we can assume that he read that comment from James, he immediately ended his live stream. So again, after this, fans put 2 and 2 together and felt that Shawn was shading James. But this one actually had a pretty cute ending, with Shawn actually DMing an apology to James about the whole situation, even saying that his comments make him laugh. So I guess the collabing might not be 100% over for these two, but some also think that James does make Shawn uncomfortable, but he just made up with James for kind of good press and to squash the beef. So I guess we'll never really know unless they do collab in the future.